So this is a plate for my trailer. Let's see if I can find that hitch. This hitch was welded to it. And it was bolted to the front of this thing. I think it actually originally had a pintle hitch. So I bent the living snot out of this thing in a pretty bad way. I hooked it up to my tractor on this ball right here, and I was moving it into the shop so I could check the bearings. And when I did, somehow the ball got up in here instead of up in here. So when I was backing it up, it came back and popped in here. So when I was trying to turn the tractor, it was caught and just bending the living snot out of this thing. I actually really like the way this hitch works. I've never seen one that has that little hood looking thing right there. And it does it was the easiest one I've ever had that actually just popped right on a ball. You didn't have to mess with it. So I went to Harbor Freight because I need this thing like right now. And I bought this and cut part of it off. So I'm going to weld it on to the plate, you know, where it's right here. So you see this one, it's got the little doodad right here. And that always gets in the way. But this one actually seems to be made better than some of those cheap ones that I've got. That's really nice, thick steel. I'm going to weld this to the plate, and then I'm going to come back and put some extra gussets and stuff like that. So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to weld it here and here. I'll cut me a little piece that goes across here. So it's going to be boxed in really, really good. So anyway, long story short, this is the plate. It had weld buildup that was, you know, I cut off the that piece right here with a plasma cutter. You know, that's kind of thin material. So when I cut it off, it just, you know, I cut it right above the weld bead. So whoever had welded that on there, man, there was a gob of weld on this thing. So I had 1/2 inch above the plate of weld to remove. And if you notice, right here, you can see where I've cut all the weld off. And I didn't use a grinder. So what I used to do, take a big grinder and sit here for 2 hours and just work and work and work. And it was a bear. And your hands were vibrating. You know, you could feel it in your hands after a while. So this is something that a lot of people don't seem to know about. This is called a carbon air arc gouger. So if you look at this goofy looking stick thing, this is a carbon rod with, I don't know, I guess that's copper on the outside. And if you look in the nozzle, you see those holes? That's for air. You take a stick welder, any DC stick welder, and you hook into this. So I just clamp this onto that little part right there. And then you've got an air hose here. Normally would have it hooked up to my air. And you've got a little button that you can turn your air on and off with. And when you turn your air on, you can sit here and just eat weld off. I mean, it chews it off. I removed all of this weld in, at the absolute most, 10 minutes. This rod would just, like this part right here was built up, you know, that high. And I just sat there and erased it. It's like a weld eraser. You can just take that rod and you just kind of push the weld off. And the air forces the material or the weld out here, and you end up with, you know, pieces like this all over the floor. But that's what it does. It liquefies the metal and then blows it off. So instead of welding to it, you're taking the weld away. I picked this up on Amazon for, I think it was 150 bucks. And then these rods, you can get these rods. I got those on Amazon actually as well. So I've got these, and I think these are 3. Oh, well, it says 1/4 inch. Oh, the gouge width is 1/4 inch. So basically, every time you come through there, you're taking a 1/4 inch trough out of whatever you're cutting. And the nice thing with this is when you weld, or when you take it off with it, you can lightly just kind of nip at something, and you know, people that are far better than I am can make it look like there was never a weld there. I'm not that great at it, so I'm still learning, but you've got your amp rating here, 90 to 150 amps. And then I've got this one, this pack, with a smaller rod that is 60 to 90 amps. So if you've got a smaller, lighter duty welder, you know, like one of these, then, you know, you don't have to run as many amps. Don't take off quite as much, but it is still far faster than a grinder. I can't recommend this enough. If you weld on stuff or mess with anything like that, and I use my stick welder, and you see I've got it at 128 amps. So, you know, in just 5 to 10 minutes at the absolute most, with very little effort, I was able to knock that weld down to where now I can take a grinder and just dress that up. Just knock the high spots down, and I've got a plate that I can weld that piece back to. So, you know, you see what it leaves behind. You can see the gouges right through here. I wish I could do video. I mean, there's plenty of videos on the internet of people gouging these things. So you can see, you know, that stuff just kind of pops right off when you're done. So when I take a grinder through here, I'll take a wire wheel and knock all the carbon out. This stuff right here. Where's the? There it is. That. So, you know, just a really easy, really quick way to knock a weld off. And I know, especially when I first started welding, I would have given anything for something like this. I spent so many times with a grinder in my hand, and after, you know, 30, 45 minutes, an hour, you're tired, you're sweaty. This thing, you know, you're still waiting on this grind to go away. It is highly annoying. So that's one thing that I've found years ago, and I've used it a million times, and it's just awesome. This is another thing. So this is your cheap Harbor Freight chipping hammer. You know, you buy it at Harbor Freight, costs next to nothing. And what I've had with these is the edges will wear down really quickly. Especially, you know, if you're welding mild steel, this is just soft material. And this, especially this carbon that I'm chipping off here, that stuff is like diamond hard, super hard material. It's brittle, but it's very hard. This is, you can see, let's see if it'll zoom in. So that's after beating on it for a while. You can see I chipped the finish, but if this would have been a different material, and I found this on YouTube somewhere. I bought these cheap rods or drill bits at Harbor Freight, but they're nice and long. And I literally took and ground the tip off here and ground the tip off here and rebuilt it back up with a TIG welder to this, and then took a grinder and dressed it back down. And it is super hard. It's as hard as the drill bit. So even though I don't have, you know, this is soft material, you wouldn't believe the difference when you're chipping slag or whatever you're doing with this. You know, you can see that really hard material, it still chipped it some, but you wouldn't believe the difference and how much better this works as opposed to what it was when I first bought it. It was really worthless. And by adding just that, $2 in a drill bit, this was like $2.70 something cents. I was able to build that up and build that up. I've got a couple of chisels around here that I did the same thing to. Here we go. So this is a chisel, and this thing is still nice and sharp. I worked on this a little harder than I did the other one, but you can see that edge, and I mean it'll cut you. It's sharp, and this has beaten on steel. It's dug through steel, so this literally will cut through a mild steel, and there's no damage to the edge. The reason the other one is so chipped up is because of what I've been beating on, which is this. But I can dress it right back up and I'll have a nice hard tip on it. But anyway, I just thought that was something that a lot of people don't seem to know about. They've never really heard of or used. And it has saved me so much time doing so many different things. If you've got something you want to cut off, or you've welded it on and you want to reposition it or something, and you've tacked it in place, you can take this and just knock the tacks off like they're nothing. And it'll also reach into places. You've got all this reach that you can reach in and grab it. And if you notice, I don't have it like a regular stick electrode where it's on the end. I've got it, you position it about 4 to 6 inches out this way, and you can just move it out and feed it out as you need to. So it just shortens up just like a stick electrode. It's very light, easy to break. I think it's graphite, but I'm not sure. Excuse me. But anyway, so yeah, I just thought that was a neat tip. My next thing, so I just ordered the material, finally, to finish this. What I did is I ordered enough framing material to frame this in, and enough material for the roof. So I'm going to have a roof that comes out to here, and I'm going to try to extend it just past here temporarily, and I'll probably put a tarp over it for now. But eventually I'm going to roof the whole thing all the way out to, this point. So I'm going to come just to the side of my machine here, and I'll probably give myself, just enough room to kind of get beside it in here. I had to move this, use that 20-ton jack there, which made it a lot easier. And if you notice, it's no longer on here. I've set it on these 6x6s. And I've got these stakes in the ground. I'm going to run a string back and forth and find my level. And eventually, I'm going to pour my concrete under here, under all these footers. So I've got it set up to where I can go under each foot. And I'm debating on pouring a footer for each one, or just pouring a slab all the way through here with my little Harbor Freight concrete mixer. But yeah, I've got the material bought. It was $3,200 for what I would have paid, like what, $1,600 for 2 years ago, for the framing material and the roof material. I don't have the sides, but there's a place near me that's a lot closer. I'm having to drive 2.5 hours to Mount Airy, North Carolina, to get this stuff. Nobody else around here sells the framing material, this stuff, the 2.5-inch galvanized tubing. I'll show you what I've got. Turn the light on. This. So I've got a bunch of 31-foot sticks of this, and I'm going to reuse this, that way, and I'll go the length of the pad and beyond it. And what I'm going to do, and I ordered extras to where I need a door out there. My intention is I'll have a support here and maybe a support here, but this will be mostly open, and I'll show you what I'll do there. And then of course I'll come to here. And then on this side, I'm going to leave it open right here. So what I'll be able to do is bring my tractor in right here and load material if I need to. So I'll leave it open to where I'll be able to load from outside. I'll have a door that I can open and load the machine, and I'll probably, I'm not 100% sure yet, but I've got a table that goes with this that could come back here so you can change the table. And I thought about setting it up to where one table was routing and one table was metal cutting. Not 100% sure what I'm going to do there yet, but I'll figure that out eventually. But that's the idea. So I'll be able to load this machine and use it. I'm going to dismantle all of this because it's completely unnecessary. This was part of the laser mechanism, which I have no use for. So this will be out of my way. And I'll probably have, you know, some kind of a computer or something or other somewhere around here. I would love to have poured another pad that way. And my original idea was this was going to sit on this pad, but it takes up the entire pad. So what I'm wanting to do is move it out here. I don't necessarily have to have a full pad of concrete under it. And I really can't afford another $4,000 pad right now. So I'm just going to pour footers, let it sit on there. And as I learn how to do the concrete stuff, I've got a propane tank, a big, I think a 200 and something gallon propane tank that I'm thinking about making a concrete mixer out of so I can do this stuff myself. It's not necessarily that, the biggest problem I've had with concrete people is, you know, it might rain or the concrete truck will be late and you're kind of at their mercy. If I'm mixing it myself, then I can do it in smaller chunks by myself when I can do it. So most of what I do is, you know, 2 hours here, 3 hours there, 5 hours here, 2 hours there. And it's usually just, okay, I've got a 5 hour chunk of time. I'm going to go do something. So what I have a tendency to do is buy the material that I need, get everything in place. You know, it's just like these bins over here. Every time I go to Harbor Freight, I buy more of them and stick them on the shelf, because my intention, whenever I have time, is to go all the way up on that wall and all the way down. I'm going to fill this part of this wall up with them and probably go all the way across here. I'm probably going to move that and do something in here as well. But, you know, it's that far off the wall. And you see how much organization you get out of that. I love these things. They're $2 a piece. Sometimes you can get like a 30% off of any item under $10 or something. So I'll come in and I'll buy a bunch of them and just set them back. And one day when I've got a couple hours, I'll come in here and I'll knock this out. The problem with concrete, like I said, is, you know, when I got this pad poured, the guy didn't put plastic under it like he said he would. And it sweats all the time. I have major problems with that pad on a regular basis. This pad, they added more water to this pad than they should have, so it's weaker. And I could tell when they poured it. And if you look at the finish, you know, the way this thing looks, let's see if I can give you a better view. Well, it's wavy. Where that one is nice and smooth, the one over there is nice and smooth. When they poured this, it's, you know, it's a rougher surface. It's not as good of a finish. It just don't look great. I'm not impressed with what they did. Needless to say, I won't have these guys come out anymore. But it took probably 2 months from the time that I told him I wanted to pour it to get it poured. He canceled on me probably 6 times. He would come out and, you know, we're going to do it Saturday, and then, well, it might rain Saturday, or my guys can't show up Saturday. And, you know, honestly, one of my biggest things is when I decide I'm going to do something, I'm going to get it done. And I can't stand waiting on somebody else to to do whatever they're going to do. So by having that concrete mixer, I can come in here and I can knock this stuff out myself. So I can pour these footers. I can drop it in. You know, I might pour one side one weekend and one side the next weekend, and it can sit here until those harden up. I'm actually going to put steel plates on top where these go to kind of spread the load so it doesn't crack as easily. But yeah, that will drop down another foot. I've thought about even digging out around where I put my concrete, where it's below this level. But I don't know. I'll figure that out. But yeah, so there's my ramblings, and I don't know if my other video uploaded yet, but that's one of my toys that I'm going to get going here shortly as well. That's my bulldozer. I get into way too much stuff. So you can see my yard is just a junk pile. I've got a buddy of mine that's supposed to come get all of this stuff here. That's a tailgate and front end loader off of another tractor. And that's a tool body that goes to one of his trucks that he wants. And that's going to be my lifter thing. It's 17,600 pounds. I've got a backhoe attachment that goes on it back here. That's another probably 5,000 pounds. And man, when you pull with this thing, it pulls and it don't give. It is super, super low geared. And I think it's 76 horsepower diesel. I believe. And I just realized that I didn't put the can back on the smokestack thingy. This thing. I've got to buy one of those little flippy-do things to go up there. But when I first got it, I had to fix that line, which I think I showed in the other video. I'm going to quit. But yeah, I've got to fix this trailer today because I've got to use it for work tomorrow. I've got to unload that trailer. I've got to fix that van for a friend of mine. But that trailer is what I'm going to go get my material on. It's like material's 30 some odd feet long. So this one I've got to get a bunch of material from work and move it to our new offices. But either way, if you are welding at all, get one of these. It is worth every dime. You know, even I would almost buy it before I'd buy a plasma cutter to start off with, because you can cut with it, you can gouge with it, you can do a lot with that thing that you really can't do with other stuff. So carbon air arc gouger, like 150 bucks on eBay there, or Amazon. This thing is the bigger version. I wish I'd have bought the smaller one. I think this is rated to 1,000 amps, and there's one that's 500 amps, which is way more than anything I'm ever going to do. So anyway, there you go. Have a good day.